The my friend, I was at dinner. She's like, "Oh, you remind me of that Devo song." I'm like, "Which one?" And he's like, "Mongoloid," and I'm like, "Oh." Now it's a funny word again. It's just like that.
You know, John, I want to say how.
Okay.
I want
Are
to
you gonna introduce me or anything?
Oh yeah, let me introduce my great friend.
Or are we just gonna get into it?
No, we're into it. But John Philbin, I was so excited to have you on here. Here's one of the great. Why you're one of. I'm excited to have you on.
Wait a minute. Are you going to introduce me? That's fucking funny. You don't get to say that very often. Are you going to introduce me or what? Like, you forgot my name.
No,
That's the only time you hear that. Did you forget my name?
Casual. It's a casual thing. So we're
Okay,
just
it's
friends
casual.
hanging out. But when I went through all your credits,
Ooh.
I always get nervous before we do these podcasts. But then I got excited with you because your credits they could have started before, but it looks like they started in 1984, right? Your film credits. Mm-hmm. Which I
First
was
movie,
a struggling actor in the 80s, not getting anything, and you were working.
Yeah, I
And
peaked early.
I want to know, what was that like? Like, how did you get into...
Oh, so now we're in the format of...
Now we're in the
I
format.
fucking love you, Nick, so much. Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Ask that formally again.
I wanted to know how you got into... Like, how'd you get into acting?
Okay. Thank you. Well, I mean, I don't know how far your guests go back, but I mean, I started doing it in high school.
You did?
In doing theater.
Where were you going to high school?
Palos Verdes High School. I was in
Okay.
Palos Verdes High School. And, I was in drama because there were girls in drama. And I was a weird little kid. I was in sports too, I was the last guy to mature, go through puberty in my high school. And I was this tiny,
Meaning you didn't have hair.
hairless,
Right, me too.
little eunuch, little,
Right. Bald eagle.
And so I couldn't take a shower in the gym
Right.
because it was humiliating. The
Yeah.
shame I had. And, I'd be wrestling, I'd wrestle. I'd be a sophomore in high school wrestling. And like, oh, take a shower, man. It's like, no, I'm just going to go home. Come on, John. Everyone's, you're disgusting. And I'm like, yeah, I got to go.
Yep.
Fucking running out of the locker room, and then full of shame. I'm kind of crying, like, why, what's wrong with me? But I was only 87 pounds, so I could wrestle, I could do pretty well for a while. And then when I started getting beat, I was like, fuck this shit. And drama I started getting better at. I started realizing I could get attention in drama. And I was, I loved fantasy when I was young. My first addiction was fantasy, and I'd play these, roles and shit. Now I'm in drama and you're like encouraged to do it. It's a thing. You can get a grade. I got an A in drama, and so, I couldn't sing for shit, but I could dance because I was an athlete. So I got these parts in the chorus, and I'd fake sing in these high school shows. And I'd be like, but there were girls, and they're dressed up, and it's fucking exciting. You go out on a stage, and so when I was a junior, I had to choose between drama and sports. And, all my friends were surfers and athletes and stuff. I hadn't totally gotten into the drama thing, and that's not a bad word. Now, when I say that, I mean fabulous club of bitchin' people, because I'm a Bukowski kind of guy. It's like all the guys are so, like, the worst thing you could be is queer. And I'm just so bored and over that. Everybody should just be queer for a while, and just relax. Just relax. That's what I like about your humor with the fucking tighty whities and the potato. I'm like, what is this guy, gay or something? Like, fucking, I don't get it. But he's just super macho and super sexually queer at the same time. I'm like, this guy's onto something. Like, I've never seen anybody do what you do.
You're going way back.
Fucking brilliant.
Oh, thanks, John.
The fucking deer fucking you in the ass, and guys, the look on your face is, no one can do that. I don't think anyone's ever done it or could do it. But it's fucking brilliant.
Well, everybody told me not to do it, and I knew.
I'm sure everyone.
everybody.
As soon as someone goes, don't.
Everybody, my Sean Milliken,
Don't
my
do it.
parents are like, don't.
Your parents.
Don't. I go, I'm doing
don't
it.
do it.
You
I'm
don't
doing
know.
it.
Yeah.
And it's the most.
Oh, it was great. It was the
Amazing
best thing ever. It took off.
It's the best thing ever. I've never seen anything like it.
But so you're in drama.
Okay, so yeah, I'm riding back from a surf trip, and my wrestlers were all going varsity next year, and they're in the back seat. My dad and Ed Cost and Rich Cost, these twins who wrestled with us, also insane athletes. Surfing and wrestling coming good because you're like, surfing is like wrestling, really.
Yeah.
But and I was super light. So it was a thing, you know. They're going, we're going varsity next year. I can't wait. You know, we're in the back seat, getting back to possibilities. Aren't you excited, John? I was like, I'm not going to wrestle this year.
Oh.
Silence, yeah. Like I could see my dad kind of, you know, the men up front, you know, back in the early 70s, like, and they're like, my surfer's like, why not? What do you mean you're not going to wrestle your varsity now? And I'm like, I'm going to do drama instead.
That's so great.
Silence. And then the electricity in the car. God. And my Ed Cost goes, why? And I'm like, you know that feeling when you're wrestling and you pin your opponent, you know, and you can't do better than that. The match is over, you know, you fucking stand up with your hands over your head. You're like, yeah, fuck. You pinned him, and this is as good as you can do. And they're like, yeah, I love that feeling. I go, yeah, that's the feeling I get every time I walk on stage.
Wow.
And I could see my dad kind of relax and like just feel like this is the first time I'd ever said anything so controversial in his presence that I believed in it and got his approval. He's a businessman.
Got it, huh?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He got it. And so I was like, God, you know, he's the one that reminded me of that story. But anyway, I had to make that choice. And I had to do it in front of, you know, the wrestling team too. And the coach was like, one or the other, just get out of here or stay, you know, which is what's going to be. And I'm going to go. And I had to walk out of the gym, you know, like in front of everybody. But I had prepared for it. And so from that point on, I'm doing plays in Drama 3, competing in drama contests in high school.
Really? I didn't know that.
Won trophies against like Beverly Hills High and these other high schools that had good dramatic performing arts clubs. We'd have contests just like a sports thing, you know, like, and we'd be, you know, judged and delivered, you know. We won the first prize. I did Equus, and it was fucking such a high. I can't even tell you. Such a rush.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm doing this, you know. And then when it was time to go to college, like my dad's like, my brother dropped out of college and, you know, and he had to support himself. And I'm like, that looks like shit to me, man. Fuck. My dad's like, hey, if you stay in college, I'll pay for your college. Right. I don't know if you guys got a deal like that, but it's a fucking phenomenal deal. I'll pay for your college. It's like, and I don't know what I want to do, and I certainly don't want to get a job. You know, like I've done that. My, you know, dishwasher, working in a surf shop. My dad will pay for me to go to college. I'm going to college. You know? So I went up to UCSB. He dropped me off. He's like, I'm at Francisco Torres in 1978, and it looks like MTV Beach House. You know, it just girls in bikinis and fucking everyone's at 10. And he's like, what the? How am I? This doesn't look like college I went to. I don't know what this is, you know, but he had committed to it. So I went there, you know, and I'm studying economics, and I'm thinking, you know, some guy said, you know, there's a price you can put on the extinction of this species if it comes in the way of this dam that's going to give electricity to this town. And I'm like, I can't be an econ major. I just can't do it. And I don't like the bottom line. Or what, you know, it hurts my soul. And I auditioned for a play, and I get in, and I'm doing great at UCSB drama. I mean, I'm coming on fire. I'm like doing my best work in college at UCSB drama. And I go, that's it. I'm going to be an actor. And I dropped out of college. I went down and lived with my mom for a while. She died of cancer. And so I dropped out.
What year was that?
Yeah, right. 1980. So I dropped out.
So you were young.
Yeah, as a sophomore in college, I dropped out of UCSB. I went down and lived with my mom. After she died, I transferred to USC. I auditioned for the theater program at USC. You know, I'm saying, you know, being an actor starts when you're fucking performing in college and everything. You know, like, I wasn't a professional actor, but I'm in a conservatory for fine arts at USC. As I enter as a sophomore, I have to do 3 years there, and I wait till I graduate in 83. So from 80 to 83, I'm at USC.
But let me ask you this, because this is why I love this is something interesting to me. Because I was just talking to Solos on here. We talked something about this. Because I don't know about this. So your mom dies.
Yeah. Your
mom dies. How do you keep going?
Yeah.
That's what, you know what I'm saying? Your mom, were you close with your mom?
Yeah. I mean, she was a difficult. My mom wasn't like solo mom. You know, like my mom was, you know, in pain and
so did she have cancer for a while?
Yeah, and also she had other mental illnesses. You know, she was very. My parents divorced when I was very young.
Okay.
And she was, you know, a very difficult woman, very, you know, mentally ill and abusive, but she had some beautiful qualities. She took us to art galleries. She was an artist. She was a student. She was a radical. You know, in the 60s, we had black people living in our house. In the 60s, you know, she was a Kennedy lover. You know, like my dad was a businessman from the East Coast. He just ended up in California just working. He was never around. They just separated and divorced. you know, I was the last man standing when it comes to, can you help your mom? You know, like everyone had turned their back on her.
Wow.
She was suing her father's estate, and when, like, her whole family were just waiting for her to die. They're like, just fucking die.
How old was she?
Well, let's see. If I was 20 when she died, she must have been 43 or 45.
So I'm assuming your dad raised you.
Yeah, my dad raised me.
Okay.
My mom was out of the house by the time I was in. I lived, me, my brother, and my dad in a latchkey house in Palos Verdes. My dad was never home, and, you know, never. And, you know, for 10 years, you know, like, we raised ourselves, you know, like, and you know what that's like. We're just wild fucking kids. You know, we're different.
Were you partying then or no?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But when my mom died, when it was the most horrible death, you know, a long and prolonged, painful cancer death, back when it was barbaric what they would do to you, you know, cutting you up, and, you know, it was just barbaric. And she was all alone. You know, I was the only one there, and I was only 19 years old. I was like, I couldn't handle it. And all I wanted to do was surf back then. All I wanted to do was surf. And I just started drinking and doing drugs. And, you know, when she died, I had gone through all these cycles of, like, hating her and being sad about my life and her life and hating everybody. And when she died, I made a decision at that time. I didn't ever want to buy in to whatever it was that I saw the world doing at that time. Like, all my family was, like, greedy, waiting for her to die, trying to get some of her money. They didn't care if she died or not. That's the whole, like, people working and doing shit jobs and not having fun, and then you're gonna fucking die like a, you know, you're gonna get tortured and then die afraid, because she was ultimately afraid. I'd have to break into her house sometimes down in San Diego when, you know, she wasn't awake or alert, you know, and I'd hear her going, "Am I in hell? Am I in hell?" I mean, scared and dreaming for your life to be dreaming like you're in hell. Yeah. Because you've been raised Catholic or something, and you feel like maybe you've sinned and you're dying, you're on so many drugs and you're in so much pain and you're so frightened. I just went, that's not for me, man. I don't give a shit. I'm going to have fun for the rest of my life. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to have fun. Fuck society. You know, I'm going to have fun for the rest of my life. And I was already an alcoholic by that time, you know, because it's not my fault. I'm just an alcoholic, you know, like, so when I went to USC.
Which is fun in the beginning.
It's super fun. I didn't know I was an alcoholic, you know. Right. But it's my allergy to alcohol. You know, I didn't know. And I hadn't done all the drugs there are to do yet, you know, and I since then I have. But my alcoholism spiraled out of control after my mom died. And so I was.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
But you're in college.
So I'm in college where everyone's doing it, you know.
Which is amazing. This is what I was trying to get to, which is amazing that you've told that story about your mom, and then how you could maintain staying in college and doing your best work as an actor.
Well, I didn't do my best work in college. In UC Santa Barbara, I did my best work. Sorry. At USC, I was a fucking...
I see.
Barely made it to class. But, you know, I did some good work. I had the talent, but I was so crippled by my drug and alcohol intake. I became a club kid. I didn't grow up in it.
Meaning
LA.
Going to clubs.
Yeah,
me too.
Meaning going to clubs. So the reason I came to USC is because I wanted to see if I could live in a city. I want to be a professional actor. Yeah. That means Hollywood. Right. That means I have to move to a city. I'd never lived in a city in my life. The most naive fucking guy from a suburban thing. I went from Palos Verdes, where we went to the city one day, and that was for our senior prom. And we went to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And I drove my date down Sunset and then down, like, Rodeo or something to get to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, where I'd never been. And when I got home after that, and this is so embarrassing, I told my dad, I go, Dad, I went to this place, you know, last night, and there's houses, you know, nice houses like we have in Palos Verdes, nice houses. And then you cross the street and there's office buildings where you could work. So you could, like, go from your nice house and just go across the street and go to work in a building, you know. I didn't know what he did. And he's like, you mean Beverly Hills? And I'm like, yeah, it was in Beverly Hills. He goes, I don't want to live in Beverly Hills. Like, we lived in Palos Verdes. He had to drive an hour to work every day, an hour to work and an hour back. Oh. There's no buildings where men work in Palos Verdes. You know, you're an hour from an office building, you know, that's serious. But that's how naive I was. But anyway, I went to LA and can I live in LA, you know, or do I have to be a regional theater actor? And I fell in love with LA, and I'm still in love with it. When
Right.
I went to fucking
Fucking
80s,
best.
80 to 84. I'm in college.
Yes.
I'm fucking going out to the Sunset Strip and clubs, learning how to fucking dance.
What clubs were you going to?
The Roxy, the Whiskey,
Yes.
Seven
Seas?
Seven Seas. First, I went to the Odyssey. How old are
The
you?
Odyssey. Yes. The
Odyssey
fucking
is the
Odyssey.
best nightclub there's ever been
Totally.
and ever will be.
Do you remember
It's
that?
gone now, but
do you remember
the Odyssey.
The Odyssey? I remember this going to the Odyssey.
You went to the Odyssey?
Yes.
Fuck. Oh my
And I
God.
had a fake ID.
Yeah. Not that you needed one because it
No.
was an all underages club.
But I remember
to drink alcohol.
Yeah. And then there was, I remember at the time in the Odyssey, it was like 1982.
Right.
And
Fuck,
people
we were in the same club at the same time,
Yes.
Nick.
And people were coming out at the time.
Yeah.
There were people really coming out being gay, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I remember
totally.
being in the club and I remember dancing on the dance floor and I'm high as a fucking kite. Because remember, you could buy locker room, amyl nitrate.
Yeah, amyl nitrate.
Behind the counter
Yeah.
at the Odyssey.
Well, the Odyssey is predominantly a gay club, but they had 3 nights a week when it was anybody can come.
And I felt like
You
I
don't
was on
have
the
to be
cutting
gay to
edge.
go.
I felt like I
Yeah,
was on
we
the
were.
Yes.
That was the cutting edge.
Things are
of Western-
happening.
Yeah,
Things are
totally.
changing.
Totally.
It's okay to be,
To dance
to be
by
yeah.
yourself or with a guy. There's
Yeah,
gay guys like, and that's
exactly.
okay. It's okay to be gay. Yeah.
Girls were with girls,
Girls,
and guys
yeah,
were with guys.
fuck.
You're going, what's going on?
Everything was there.
And you're hitting the amyl nitrate.
Yeah, so on the dance floor, dancing
Yes.
to Sex Dwarf, like Sex Dwarf, like, oh, I love my life. Yeah, it was so.
I loved it.
Look, I lived for the Odyssey for
Yeah.
3 years of my life.
Right.
I lived for
I
it.
can't believe
Wednesday
this.
night, Friday night. I'm going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think, or I don't know, whatever those nights were.
Did you ever go to Osco's on Monday? Osco's Disco. There was Osco's, the Odyssey. How about Wall Street? Did you ever go to Wall Street? That
No.
was Wednesday night.
I went to the
Mid-Wilson.
Cattle Baron underneath the
Cattle-
Beverly.
yeah.
But Odyssey was my place. my jam.
Voila.
I went to Voila
Yeah.
under the Beverly Center too,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
fancy.
Oh,
that was
man.
fancy.
Yeah, that was fancy.
I mean, I've never had more fun. Night clubbing in LA was insane.
And you could go out back then and you could hobnob with celebs.
That's what LA was like.
Yeah.
You were with all the actors were just going out to have fun. It wasn't they weren't going out to do business.
Right.
So and all the actors we were all actors in LA and everybody knew everybody. It was fucking great.
And are you getting jobs at this point?
Okay, no. I started getting so I graduate USC and I don't have now I'm cut off. I have no income. Go for it.
Okay.
And so I have to get a job. I got out of SC. I did 2 plays, and I got a good review in the drama log. I got sober
the
the day
drama log.
the day I left USC. I got sober. I got arrested my senior year for a DUI. I went to jail
Oh, it's already starting then.
in a kilt, an eyeliner, because I had been to the Odyssey. I think that night I wore a kilt. I used to wear a kilt. And a ripped up English flag shirt, like
Yes.
sometimes I'd speak in
Which
an
is
English
punk rock.
accent. Yeah. And I got arrested driving someone else's Jeep. I was by myself, but I shouldn't have been driving, and I went to jail in a kilt, went before the judge in a kilt, spent the night in LA County in a kilt, and had to go to AA for my, for the judge.
Court card.
Court card, yeah. And
How
so
old were you?
I was 23 years old. So I went and I saw a bunch of people from fucking the clubs and actors and people from the club. I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't say their names, but I'm like, fuck, you guys are like, yeah, dude, I'm glad you're here, And I got sober.
Yeah.
And I graduated USC. I'm like, I'm not drinking anymore. I'll never be an actor if I continue drinking.
Wait, so is that when you got sober?
That's when I got sober, 1983.
23.
1983.
Which is young. That's very young for back then.
Yeah,
There wasn't a lot of people getting sober that young. My wife did. She was
Your
19.
wife. Yeah, and there were kids at Ohio Street,
Yeah.
and Sunset, like there was a group of us and making AA sexy, the Gong Show at Ohio Street,
That's right.
and hot young girls, and there were dances and shit. It was a thing, But I just felt so special. Like these are my people, I have found my people. This is a private club,
Right.
and we're fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we're big, we're just party animals, but we're sober. So we've got an edge. Like you always say, God cheats in your favor when you're sober. Like we have an edge over
Yeah.
people like I was, out of control, sloppy guy. Now we're fucking, my biggest thing was, can I dance at a club sober?
Right.
I didn't think I'd ever be able
Which
to do
is
it.
so hard.
It was such.
But when you do it, there's nothing more freeing than doing shit sober that's scary.
Fuck yeah.
That's the biggest adrenaline rush there is.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, no. So I started. So some manager saw me in a play, and he said, do you wrestle? I was like, I used to. Why? Do you want to go to the YMCA and wrestle? I'm like,
No way.
no, I don't. He goes, I'd like to be your manager, but I'd like to wrestle you. I'm
No
like, no. But I could tell that, even back then, it's so funny, sexualization of young men in Hollywood. I'm from this small fucking town, but now I've moved to LA and I'm dancing at the Odyssey. So I now see a side of life that I'd never seen before. And I'm like, I have got this thing that some old men want. And if I can fucking treat it, correctly, if I can use it for my benefit, somehow I can use this. And I wished, I was going to New York in summers. I wished I could be at that time bisexual. I really wanted to be because I think in all my favorite actors, James Dean, Montgomery Clift, these guys are all bi, and I'm like, God, that would open doors for me and fucking open doors for me, get me jobs. I'd be a real fucking, I could really go somewhere if I was bi, and I couldn't do it. It's not my fault. That's what I learned about human sexuality. I was like, I'd love to be bi. I tried to, this guy tried to pick me up at St. Mark's in Lower East Side, New York. I'm sitting in, I didn't realize, but I'm looking up at a bathhouse, the St. Mark's bath. I've been up all night. He's talking to this beautiful, like, Broadway dancer guy, I'm like, oh, this guy's the real deal, like Broadway dancer.
Right.
And he's like, why don't you come upstairs? I'm like, no, I'm not, I can't do it. He's like, can I kiss you? And I'm like, this is my moment.
Right.
Okay. He reaches down for a kiss. I go like, I can't. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. It's me. I'm sorry. He goes, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all right. I hope you have a good day. I'm going to go upstairs. It was great, man. I'm like, okay. And he walks away and I'm like, oh, fuck. I need to fuck someone right now. And there's a skinny girl. She looks great. Stands up and turns around and sees me standing there like, hey. And she's a fucking junkie. And you can just see her eyes and her fucking mouth all fucked up. She's got rouge on. She goes, you will need a date? And I looking at her and I just felt so disgusted with sex, myself, and this is a sex worker, but she's obviously a fucking strung out whore who's been working all night and can barely talk. She looked good from behind, bent over, but not when she stood up.
And you're not sober at this point, or are you?
No, I'm not sober. But I was just like, no, thank you. And I'm like, I got to go take a shower and go home. And like, I just got burned twice, in my idea of like, I'm romanticizing the reality of using sex to get something, using sex as a way to get money from her place, or me using a man's sexuality to get jobs, to become something I'm not, not just this is a mutual share, but in a mercenary way, I'm going to use my sexuality, and I just felt gross. I would burn twice. I was like, fuck, that's gnarly.
But what's funny? That's why I wanted to get into this too, because you were a working actor in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing with you is you were somebody who started studying acting in high school. You were doing it in college. You had the goods, right? You actually had the goods to do it. You had the skill and stuff. Which what you're saying is so true in the 80s and before. But I can only speak from the 80s.
Yeah,
right?
Me too.
Is my experience was like what you're talking about. I'd be like, fuck it. I don't want to put the time in to go to fucking class. I'd rather party. And if there's a way, and there was plenty of ways that you could get the job, there were shortcuts, right?
Shortcuts.
That was happening. That seemed to be happening a lot.
Sure.
I remember getting auditions on these super low budget movies. One time a guy had, taken pictures, and I thought the guy was...
That's right.
onto something, and I went, that was a whole nother story. You guys sitting there laughing, they're thinking of my gigolo story, but that one. I wound up in the gay porn magazine when I was 16.
It's fucking great. Super
There we
sexy.
go.
Are you wearing anything underneath? Are you naked?
That's not actually me, but that's me. That's my face. But the pictures that the guy took.
That's not your body?
No. No, I wouldn't have that picture.
They put your face on someone else's body.
No. In real life, the guy took pictures of me. I was going to be a gigolo.
Yeah.
And the guy, I went to this this apartment building in Hollywood.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a pimp, and he said I could fuck old ladies for $400 each time. And I was like, how many can I do in one night? He goes, as many as you can. And I go, I get $400 each time. He goes, every time. I go, wow.
I've made it.
And my friend goes, you're a fucking idiot. I'm out of here. Because the guy got us on the pier. We were shark fishing.
Right.
And my friend goes, I'm going to school. I was going to school then. And I go, well, you're stupid. I'm going to make money. And then long story short was I get in there and he took, he told me he needed to take pictures of me, Polaroids, to give to the old lady that I was going to have sex with. She needs to see what you look like. Right. And I remember he grabbed my hand, right? And he goes, and I had scales all over my hand from cutting bait, from fishing. And he goes, you can't touch her with those dirty hands. He goes, you need to take a shower. And I go, can I just wash my hands? He goes, no, you need to take a shower. So I go in and I take a shower in this little pool room. There's a swimming pool. And while I was in there showering, he had taken my clothes and moved them. So I had to get out and walk across naked. And then he stopped me. And then he took pictures of me. And then the pictures wound up in
oh, my God.
in a gay porn magazine.
Yeah. That's fucking wild. That's still a plot point in the movies, like, moving the clothes of someone in the shower. That's like they're still using it today.
But I don't even know how we got onto that. But the whole thing is like that was going on.
Yeah.
And what I'm excited about you is you were working.
Okay, so all right.
You were working, and I was
you
trying to
hear
do
about
shit like
professional
this.
movies and shit.
How did you get in?
Okay, right. That's the question. I took a long way around to get there.
No, because I liked what you said. Because that's what's amazing to me is you were getting wasted, going clubbing.
Yes.
And then somehow
what happened? Yeah.
You get in, start making fucking movies.
So I get sober my senior year. I graduate. I'm sober. I do 2 plays. A manager picks me up. I don't have to wrestle with him at the Y. I have to turn him down about 10 times on the wrestling. We met at the Copper Penny.
I'd have wrestled him.
I know. Well, so then, he introduced me to an agent, Steve Dontonville. I signed with them. I go, hey, I'm not comfortable with the guy who introduced us. I'm not comfortable with that guy. He wants to wrestle. And they're like, oh, we get it. We know. That's his thing. They're like, don't worry about it, because I never signed with him. So I'm immediately have burned somebody who got me an agent, used them, burned them, got a good agent, and went, okay, this is where I belong. I auditioned for a bunch of shit. The first movie I got was Children of the Corn.
That's right, which is
first
big.
Movie I got was Grandview, USA. I had an audition with Cher that was
with Cher?
Yeah, I'm sober. And I'm like doing I'm like Ronnie's prayer, 3rd step prayer a lot.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to meetings and I'm just God. I feel like I'm, a pink cloud channeling God and killing it in auditions. I just did such a good audition. I got this job. My first job was going to be with Cher, but she dropped out. So it was with Jamie Lee Curtis, Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Carol Cook, all these, John Cusack, Tommy Howell. My first fucking job, and I'm playing a... And I'm fucking like, I'm doing this, man. And then my agent goes, hey, go in for this horror movie. You need some work in front of a camera so that you know what you're doing. And it's Children of the Corn. And I'm like, I do this shitty audition, but, my agent's like, yeah, he's got time to do this little movie, this little low budget independent. And then he's going off to do a really good movie, and he's gonna be a star. And
wait, did you work with Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah, she's I love her. Yeah, she's Jamie Lee Curtis. You got to see it. It's
did
called
you, like at the time when you worked with her, before when you got that first movie though, what was that like?
Okay, well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I know. I told you. I can fucking talk, bro. So, because you're asking me questions about, I'm trying to remember. So, it's exciting for me. But I never talk about it so I go and do this Children of the Corn movie first, and I'm embarrassed about it. Oh, but actors do horror movies back then because they're free. Actors are cheap. You know, that's where I got Taft-Hartley. That was the first time I ever worked in front of a camera. And my first scene in Hollywood was carving a pentagram into my chest, And before I did it, I'm in the fucking room, doing push-ups and sit-ups and shit. My director's like, God, you do more push-ups and sit-ups than any actor I've ever seen. I go, I'm going to have my shirt off in the next, in forever.
And you were ripped back then.
Because of that. Because it's not like I walk around ripped. It's because, my next scene in Hollywood, I'm going to come out as an actor topless, carving a pentagram in my chest. I'm doing push-ups and sit-ups going, fuck. And, so I did it, and it was, I learned how to work in front of a camera, marks and directors and shit like that. And then I went off to do this amazing movie where I'm playing this mentally handicapped guy, and I'm working with Jamie Lee Curtis and Patrick Swayze and Tommy Howell, and, I'm like in character the whole time. I'm a method actor, and I'm doing...
You're a method actor?
Yeah, and I'm in character the whole fucking... I'm studying with Peggy Fury, by the way. Studying was everything to me.
You're doing the deal.
Class is everything to me. And I'm in class with Sean Penn and Eric Stoltz, Nick Cage, Meg.
They're in your class.
We're all in class together doing scenes.
Wow.
Michelle Pfeiffer, Meg Ryan,
Fuck.
And that's who we're hanging out with. Because that's the 80s, and no one's like blinking an eye about it. We're like, we're in a fucking best acting class in the world right now.
Fucking best.
We're in the best acting. So we get a job. It's like, should I do this job? Or I kind of wanted to put my scene up, cowboy, my Sam Shepard scene up, True Love, True Love in
because you're about
in
to
class.
work.
Yeah, we're about to work. But like, no, go do this horror movie. I'm like, okay, sorry guys, I gotta go. But they're like, fuck, you got a job, go. But they had this sensibility of like art and commerce, which is the dumbest fucking waste of time. And I didn't have anybody in the business. I never knew anyone in the business to give me guidance. Mm-hmm. I had my agents just getting me jobs, and I take everything I get. So I go to Grandview, USA, and it's a brilliant experience for me. I go, I can be an actor.
Yeah.
I did some magic on the set, and I go home a different person. Time goes on, and I have my career, and I did a bunch of movies, but 40 years later, cut to 40 years later, Grandview, USA, no one really, it's a great little 80s kid movie. It's great, and I do great work in it, and I'm with great people. It's how I met Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Jason Leigh and stuff. But nobody's interested in getting an autographed picture of me from Grandview, USA. But every month I go to a different city. I'm flown to a different city, and I stay in a hotel, and I go to a convention center, and I sign autographs of me cutting a pentagram in my chest for Children of the Corn. Because timing, some weird thing, 80s horror movies have become cult favorites.
Right.
So the movie I was like, I just gotta, I'm gonna do this, has become a thing that is just, I'm still living for. It's paying, it's like, I make more money on a weekend than I did making the film.
Wow.
Yeah, and Grandview, USA, like the important film that changed my life, set me on a trajectory.
You did, because then like some of your other huge ones, like I was telling these guys, Tombstone, Point Break. I mean, what was...
Yeah, now that I've got up to I'm a professional actor, any questions?
Yeah, what made me, seriously, so like you're with... Tombstone came, Point Break came first, right?
Yeah, before Tombstone.
So you're in Point Break. You'd already
done Point Break.
Yeah.
Right.
What was that? Was there any time where you're working with Keanu Reeves or Patrick Swayze and you're like, fucking, this is gnarly. Like I gotta have my shit together. Or are you not that kind of guy where you're nervous about that at all?
Great question. Great question. I had done a movie called North Shore where I played a surfer in Hawaii.
That's right.
And I loved surfing.
Turtle.
I loved surfing so much. Mm-hmm. And I got it. I played that character so well,
Yeah.
That might have had something to...
Have you guys seen this?
I think that's something...
You got to watch it.
It also became a cult thing, But
it was a good surf... First of all, surf movies are normally not good at all.
Right.
There's Big Wednesday, which was pretty good.
That's my favorite movie.
Right? That's probably the only original surf movie that was really good. And then...
Yeah. And then North Shore and then
came
Point
out,
Break. Right.
And everybody liked North Shore.
Some people did.
I thought it was like, you go, this is pretty good for a surf movie.
It became a cult movie because of VHS, timing, VHS, and then cable TV. Those things weren't even around when we started making these movies. It would come out in a movie theater, and if it bombed, it bombed. And it was, you're moving on to the next one. You're like, it's over. But with VHS and cable, movies had a resurgence, and that's why the 80s are popular now in the movie cult circuit.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was so into it, and I did a couple other movies, and then I got, you know, I started auditioning for Point Break, you know, at this studio, and I'd go in, and I am a surfer, you know, and so I had a confidence about playing those characters that people who weren't surfers, who were better actors than me, didn't have. Like Patrick Swayze is such a good actor. He could play a surfer. A Hollywood actor playing a surfer is usually just booed. You know, it's like, that guy sucks.
Yeah.
Everyone hates him, but they don't hate Patrick Swayze. He's such a good actor that he could play a surfer. But I was a surfer, so I brought in that room, you know, a confidence that and that kind of confidence works on film, you know, like if you watch you know, my wife makes me watch. She didn't know I was an actor. She like hates actors,
love it, right?
Yeah, she hates everything about it. She goes, well, I didn't know you were in. She'll look something up. Can we watch that together? I'm going, that's not my thing. She goes, please, you know. So we do a deal where, you know, I'll watch the movie with her if she'll do something for me. So I'm like, because we're a transactional relationship. No, I love my wife so much. I love her so much. But I'll sit through these fucking movies with her that I did back in the 80s and 90s, and I'll go, fuck, that was great. You know, and she'll go, you're a fucking badass. You don't give a fuck. I went, you know what it was? It was because I surf.
Right.
And there's nothing like that. You know, like, I don't give a fuck about these guys are pretending to be surfers. So I'm already
You're the real deal.
I'm the real deal, and I don't give a fuck.
So when you go in on this audition,
so it's different. I have that edge.
Yeah. So when you go in, like, auditioning for that movie? What was it like? What's the room like?
Oh,
is
yeah.
Casting director? Or is the director there?
Yeah.
Is that the producers there?
Yeah. So I go in and meet Tony Scott, who was the original, or Ridley Scott, who was the original director for Point Break, and Charlie Sheen was going to be in it, you know, and I like, how's it going? Good. The director's there. He's like, I'm going to read with you. I'm like, cool. You know, the casting director.
So you're reading with Ridley Scott?
Yeah.
Oh, man. We knew Tony Scott.
Oh, great. Fuck, that guy, that's insane.
But anyway, go on. So you're reading with Ridley Scott.
Yeah, like, and he's reading, and I'm like playing the Patrick Swayze part, you know, talking to him. He's playing Keanu Reeves' part. It wasn't Keanu at the time. It was someone else. But, and I nailed it, you know, because I fucking surf.
Were you nervous?
Fucking felt great. No, I wasn't nervous at all.
You weren't even nervous?
No. It was a scene about, you know, this guy, you know, I'm complimenting this guy for being a quarterback in a high-pressure situation, you know, where he's in a pocket and he's got to make a decision, and people are trying to kill him, you know, and I'm like, that must be a rush, you know, like I've never, you know, I do shit for a rush, and you must have loved that, because I'm trying to get him into this adrenaline junkie thing, you know, and he's like feeling it, you know, and I'm feeling it, because I am that guy, you know, I'm doing that shit in my life. I've done it. You know, I surf pipeline, I surf G-Land. And I'm like, so I'm trying to share with this guy, you know, we're in this, you and me are like we're like each other. You're like me. And, you know, he felt it, you know, and he goes, fuck, so they made an offer to me to play Nathaniel, because they needed a movie star to play Bodie.
Right.
And I'm not a movie star. I'm a little character actor. So they offered me Nathaniel, which was a really good part back, you know. I went, I fucking made it. I'm doing a second surf movie. You know, I'm going to be in this surf movie called Riders on the Storm, I think it was called, or something like. And I'm like, fucking Bullet the Blue Sky. That was the original
title?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like,
it was at this other studio. And for a lot of money, I'm like, I'm fucking made it, man. This is a studio film, a huge, and it's surfing. It's my dream come true to work on, you know, on surf movies, because I know what it's like, you know, and I'm going to rob banks.
Can you say how much money around? What's a lot?
$100,000, you know, back in.
And you're how old?
I don't know. It's 1987, so I'm 27 years old.
27, $100,000, major motion picture.
Yeah.
How long are you sober at the time?
It's 1987, so I'm sober 4 years. 4 years. My dreams are coming true.
Oh man,
my dreams are coming true.
Totally.
And I'm like, you know, fucking gonna, you know, and little did I know, I mean, things changed from that point on. Overcut that, you know, I was delusional. I had to like, this is gonna go on for the rest of my life. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I remember the first movie I did, and they give you a per diem envelope, and I'm like, what's this for? And that's just your daily, what you get a day. SAG per diem.
Right.
I'm like, I'm like going to the mall and buying leather jackets and cowboy hats. Like, you know, people are like, hey, if I were you, I would save that money. You know, like I'm like, why? Why would you save it?
It's just gonna keep coming.
It's just for the I'm gonna get an envelope of cash every week, right, for the rest of my life, right? But you know, that wasn't the case. You know, I crashed and burned hard. But at that time when I got Point Break, I thought I'd made it. That's when I went, I've made it. I'm a studio approved actor.
You're a fucking name.
Studio approved. This is gonna be big.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you something. Okay, so you and I knew each other from around the rooms, right? And I'll never forget. I didn't know you, but I was out at Malibu. It was a big swell at Malibu, and I was fucking I took off. I got a great one. I picked one off. Ooh. And I'm fucking ripping. You know when you just, everything's fucking flying. And then it was such a good wave. You know, you can't help, you want to see. I hope everybody saw that.
Yeah.
And I looked around, and you were standing right there in front of me, and you go, hey, man, nice wave. Right?
Yes.
And I go, oh, my God, it was Turtle.
Oh, yeah.
And that's who saw my wave.
Right.
It couldn't have been anybody better than you at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And then when I found out we knew we had the same friends. And
yeah, we're friends with Bill's.
It's right.
Yeah, that is the Turtle phenomenon is a weird thing. At first, I tried to distance myself from that character and from that, you know, people identifying me as Turtle. They'd call me Turtle and stuff. Like, and I just feel, don't call me Turtle, man.
You didn't want that.
No, I didn't want it, you know. But I didn't know what it meant to them, and I had the wrong attitude about acting, you know. It took me a while to embrace that. And this is another thing where you mock what you will become, you know. What I used to make fun of. Now I'm like, yeah, Turtle, fuck, that guy knows Turtle. Like, anything Turtle, I'm like, yeah, keep it alive. You know, it's great. Totally. It's good for my brand. I love it. The more the better. But I used to be like, don't fucking call me that. You know, and now I'm like, hey, you know, like, you want me to do a line from the movie? Like, whatever, it's $100. But I love it now. But when I got Point Break, then they dropped Point Break from the studio. They changed directors to Catherine Bigelow. They changed actors to Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves. And then I got an offer for it. I was doing some other movie, and I was doing Dillinger, and I got an offer. You got an offer for that movie. You know, they dropped it and they picked it back up. And I was like, do I have to go and read it? Like, no. They just want you to play that same character you got. I'm like, I want to meet the director. Like, you don't have to. And I go, I want to, you know. I fly back to LA. I'm like, this is fucking great, man. I lived my whole life. I was born to play this part. Here's a picture of me surfing pipeline. Here's a picture of me skydiving. You know, here, let me read this story about the bank, you know. And my reading sucked. And I could just tell I bricked in the room, you know. And I was like trying to... I didn't even have to do it. I almost read myself right out.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they were like,
just
you
take
got
the
it.
job.
Yeah.
Don't go in and try to you got the job, bro. Like, relax. But I was so excited, you know. So yeah, and that was a great experience. Patrick, I had known from the movie before. I did Rambo USA with Patrick Swayze, so we had an immediate bond. And Keanu, you know, I didn't have to befriend him. He's the person that I would die for. I would die for Patrick Swayze.
Did you have a relationship with Patrick?
Did you totally. Have a friendship? We hung out. We talked every day.
What was he like?
Forever. We're friends till the day he died. You know, he was the most loving, kindest, gnarliest dude. Really? And he loved everybody. Yeah, people. That guy was so gnarly, man. You know, trained in ballet and football. Like, we had to do some football scenes together, and he's throwing blocks. We're not even on camera. I go, dude, we're not even on camera. He goes, so, like, you know, he was 100% all the time.
Wow.
100% all the time. And just, he would pick us up. He would go skydiving, you know. Yes. He would take us skydiving every day. You know, every weekend we'd go to his house in Arrowhead, and I'd see his horses at his ranch, his Arabians, you know, go water skiing with him. He just took care of his gang, his boys.
Yeah.
And we would go skydiving. Once we're up there going skydiving, and you know, I'm in the plane, I look over, and Keanu Reeves is sitting there in the plane.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ, we're all fucking jumping out of these planes. This guy's a movie, you know, like, this is insane.
This is nuts.
And at first I was like, Keanu Reeves, really? But, you know, Catherine Bigelow is such a genius. She saw something in him.
Yeah.
She went, this guy can be an action hero star. She's a visual artist. She goes, when you watch these two on screen, what you pay attention to is, you know, what she's looking for, where your eyes go. People are looking at him just as much as they're looking at Patrick Swayze, who's a bona fide movie star.
Yeah.
And so that's how she could tell, like, this guy's got what I need to be a lead in an action film. And that started his career as an action film.
Did you have a friendship
with Keanu? Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. We used to hang out all the time. I loved his sister and him. He was the nicest. Listen, those two guys are not normal human beings. Patrick is the most he would call me every night, till midnight talking about the next day of work. And then after that for a while, he tried to get sober for a little while. And he came to, we went to meetings.
Oh, wow.
We went to Rodeo and stuff, We went to meetings. He wanted to get sober. I couldn't really help him because by that time I had phased. I was still going to some meetings, but I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't know how to 12-step someone. I kind of phased out. But, being sober was good for me, but I was a dry drunk by that time.
So what happened?
Dry drunk.
So so now you've got this career, this incredible fucking
I've got a career and I'm not going to
like
AA
a real
meetings.
Okay.
And I'm fucking angry. And I'm just pissed. And what happened was, I think I got another movie like Tombstone, and I was I was sober during Tombstone too. But I think after that, I started experiment. I was so dry and I couldn't get the jobs I wanted. Like I did some other movie, Honor Bound, and nobody wanted to see it. And they didn't, I thought it was because of me. I was the lead in this movie with Tom Skerritt, George Zunza. My agent dropped me because no one would pick up that movie, and I just thought it was me. I thought it's me, now I got the lead in a movie. And it didn't come out. It didn't get released. And it's because
You're just telling yourself stories.
Yeah. It's not because of me. Distribution's a totally different business, But I'm thinking it's me, and I'm feeling angry and edgy. I'm going up for these parts, and they're not as good, and I'm still not getting them. Parts where I used to think, oh, just make me the offer. I'd go in and read, and not get it, and I'm like, fuck. Yeah. These guys are idiots.
Right.
And I just got angrier and angrier and bitter, more bitter and bitter as all my friends who I was with were still going up and up and up, and I was hanging out with them, but I couldn't get a fucking job, and I was fucking scared and angry, and one thing led to I'm going out with guys that are really rich, I'm hanging out with guys that are actually rich, and they're doing pills, and I'm like, what is that? Give me that. Vicodin, I'm like, what's it for? It vanquishes any uncomfortable feelings you have. No, well, I'm very uncomfortable. Can I have one? And I didn't think that was a slip.
Right.
I actually didn't, because I'm an alcoholic,
Right.
And back
How
in
long
then,
were you sober at this time?
10 years.
Wow.
I got 12 years before I slipped. I had 12 years, but the last two, I am furious and brittle and dry and angry. And, I was like the bitter unknown. I used to I had a character, guys that auditioned for something but didn't get it, but they talk about the audition when the movie, I auditioned for that. Fuck this.
Yes.
I could have, and then just become this bitter unknown. And believe me, nobody roots for the bitter guy. The bitter unknown is a character we wanted to make a movie about, and he's like, he lives under a bridge. I auditioned for that. Guys that say they audition for something, you're like, is that your claim to fame? You audition for something
yes,
just a bitter unknown, bitter, angry unknown. I resented Hollywood. I went through this thing where I'm not getting what I want, and in my inventory thing, I resented Hollywood because I thought that they, dropped me. My agent drops me. I'm getting with smaller and smaller agencies, going up for worse and worse parts, and then not even getting some of those bad parts, having a hard time making a living. And I just become one of these, has-beens, never was guys. That's how I felt. And it was just like, I can't believe it happened to me. I never thought, I saw guys go up and down, and I'd see them in the audition rooms, and I'd go, that's never going to be me, because I'm special.
Right.
Yeah, that's never going to be
and
me.
So
I could hear them talking. I'm like, fuck, what losers? And then I became that.
And did it start with the guy in the pills? Was that it?
Yeah, I was so uncomfortable because of that attitude.
Yeah.
Because nobody going, God, you're so lucky, John. But it took me 20 years to go 30 years after that to be like, fuck, I'm so lucky to have the career I had in Hollywood. So I got so lucky. But when I started doing those pills, one pill led to another. I'm not drinking. Right. I'm doing pills for a year.
Are you still going to meetings?
No.
So you're just out, fucking dry. Now you're taking pills.
Yeah, I'm taking pills. What did AA ever done for me?
And then
what happened?
Yeah, where does it go from there?
Yeah, I'm taking so many pills. I'm going down to Mexico, muling pills, bringing them back to go. I start going to nightclubs again because that's my default. So I'm 40 years old in a fucking the Garden of Eden, trading Vicodin that I got in Mexico, or OxyContin, or Valium, or Xanax. You could buy them, just put them in your underpants, and walk across the line. And now you're the king in Hollywood. Now,
but where's your sober friends?
I don't talking to them. They're working in movies.
Because I remember when you were gone and somebody said, fucking John's out.
Yeah.
And I remember going, I was like, because you had so much more time than me.
Yeah.
And I remember just going,
yeah.
I always looked at that as like, how can that fucking be?
Yeah.
Because you don't really know what's going on with somebody.
Yeah.
Especially if they're drifting away, you just don't know.
I did not have a sober pack of friends. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't go to meetings, all the things they say. And I was angry, and I wasn't appreciative. My mind had, my will, my anger, my ego had completely taken me over, And I blamed Hollywood, and like, I was just saying all the shitty things that a bitter unknown actor says, like, and now I'm taking pills, because it eases that uncomfortableness, that anger, Now I'm taking pills. I'm going to nightclubs, One pill leads to another. The next thing you know, I'm like, I went out to a nightclub in Hollywood, and I realized I didn't have any pills. I didn't have a stash to go home to, and I just went, I'm addicted to drugs. I'm addicted, and I'm fucking scared. I don't want to come down, and I don't have any. What am I going to do? I'm addicted to pills, And so I got a bunch of more pills, and the next thing I know, I traded a pill for an ecstasy pill down in Cabo. I'm going to Cabo every weekend with a rich guy. I'm living off of rich guys.
Yeah.
Taking their drugs, going on trips with them. No, I'm not making my own money, not paying my way, not self-supporting in any way.
Yeah.
Living down below, like down in studio apartments, just a drug addict, hanger-on in Hollywood, just hanger-on with people that could throw me cheese. I was just I'm using other people because I had done work in movies. Oh, this is like I'm like a mascot. I'm like a pet. Look, that guy was Turtle. Here, put this hat on, bro. Get down on your knees. I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And it's humiliating, but I'm like, yeah, whatever, and I'm just angry about it. And then when I took ecstasy, I was like, this is where it's at.
Yeah.
Ecstasy solved all my problems. I went, this is what it's, I'm in clubs.
Yeah.
I'm dancing. I love it. And I'm like, this is great. I've got it going on, taking my shirt off in clubs, like fucking I got a key to Point Doom. I'm surfing and going to clubs. and I'm way too old to be doing this. And then one night, like the lights come on in the Garden of Eden, and they're bright and shit. And these two girls, they're looking at me, and they come over, and I'm like, oh, these two young 20-something girls are gonna, love me up tonight. And I'm like, yeah, come here. And I go, come here. Like I'm gonna start kissing them and grabbing their asses at the club. And they go, whoa. What? Do you know where we can get some X? And I'm like, why are you asking me? They're like, because you look pretty faded, dude. I'm like, I am that guy now.
You're the guy. You became the guy.
Yeah. So one thing leads to another. I start doing coke because I'm fucking a drug addict.
Right.
Why not do coke? I'm back on coke, and then I'm at an after-hours party. I can't go on an audition. All my agents have dropped me, right? So I'm like, oh, fuck. Do you have any Valium? Does anyone have any Xanax or Valium? They're like, yeah, I can see you're suffering, you're in pain. Why don't you have a drink? And I'm like, oh, no, I can't drink. I'm an alcoholic. And they're like, okay, and I'm a full-blown coke addict, drug fiend, but I won't drink because I'm an alcoholic. And, that I crossed that bridge next, and after I crossed that bridge, it's down. Alcohol just takes you fucking down so fast, and then I came back into AA. I was an unemployed, bitter drug addict who used to be an actor in the 80s. And, I come back into AA. I go, oh, fuck, I can do this. This is where life is. Life is here. I need to do something. What am I going to do with my life? I don't know how to do anything.
What year was that when you came back in?
I don't know, like 90 or something. Like, I don't know how to, 90 something. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do anything. That's when I met you probably, and I'm like, I know how to surf. I could teach surfing. I went down and saw my friend had a surf school in Manhattan, Kanoa Surf, Kip Jurger, and he was happy, and he's teaching all these kids how to surf. I'm like, why are you so happy? He's like, I love my job. I look at these kids. I'm out in the nature every day. I'm teaching surf, and I'm like, can I work for you? He's like, yeah, it's minimum wage. You got to come here at 6, set up tents, work till like 2 or 3, go home. I'm like, I'll do it. So I'm like learning how to teach surf. The next kid next to me is in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high school job.
Right.
High school, and I'm 40 something. Used to be a movie actor, but he didn't know how to he goes, I don't know how to capitalize on your movie credits, on your turtle thing. I was like, well, figure it out, bro, because I'm getting tired. This is so hard, man. But I learned how to teach surfing. I took it really seriously. I learned how to teach. I became a private surf instructor. I remember giving Solo a card because I moved, I'm in Santa Monica now. I made up a business card. I'd never had a business card. Surf lesson, pro surf instruction.
Yeah.
I think I was at a club, like giving them out. I gave one to Solo, and I think I remember him hitting me in the back of the head. Do I look like I need a surf lesson? And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Am I doing it wrong? My friend's like, you don't just fucking give cards to people, John, until you talk to them about stuff, and then if it seems appropriate, you give them a business card. I didn't know how to do I'd never had a job besides an actor. I didn't know how to do shit.
Right.
So but I became a surf instructor and I loved it. And
you traveled the world.
Traveled the world.
I mean, you've been. I mean,
yeah,
some of the
was
places.
a good 20 years. I was a professional surf instructor.
Yeah,
100% in, not acting.
That's
just
amazing.
Surf lessons. Yeah.
I mean, that's like a dream, right? You come out of this fucking gnarly doomsday debauchery world.
Yeah.
Which is to come to this experience of all the jobs you can get when you get back sober is the thing that's your love, right?
Yeah.
Is giving away.
Well, that's a nice attitude.
Surfing.
And I would say that a couple times to be grateful, but that didn't last that long. Yeah. And it became, a job where I just had to take pride in the fact that I'm a good teacher and I'm an experiential provider.
Yeah.
But, I'm also a surfer and it's enabling me to surf. But you don't get to surf when you're teaching surfing.
No.
People
it's a
are
lot
like,
of, it's
what
work.
time did you guys paddle out? I go, well, I didn't paddle out. I was teaching surf. Yeah, what time did you paddle out? I'm like, what I do is I put booties on and I walk out, and I hold, yeah, what time did you paddle out? Because they're thinking like, you're surfing. You get to go. You're surfing no, I'm not surfing.
No. And it's hard.
Yeah,
I did it a little bit.
So hard. Everyone has.
You're pushing,
every guy's ever gotten sober did his time as a surf instructor.
It's physical. It's very physical.
Very physical.
You have to be very patient.
Yeah, no, it's a good job, but it's a job, and I got to, I kind of aged out of it in a way. I still do privates now, but I was doing 4 lessons a day, just like at the end, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't keep doing this, That's why, and I got back into acting really because I would manifest this, like this surf instruction is too hard. Mm-hmm. I've spent my whole life training. I'm an overtrained, underemployed LA actor that hates to work, but I've been teaching surfing for 20 years and time has gone on and it's 20 something now and people are starting to go, North Shore is cool.
Yeah.
Point Break's a good movie. And like people are I had forgotten I was an actor.
Yeah. And like you said,
I literally forgot I was an actor.
And the 80s is so now.
Yeah. It suddenly started coming into my life. People were asking me to do surf lessons because of my work in films. And I'm like, God, I should get back to that. I should do something about that. Do I want to just be this surf? So I kind of started like trying to phase out of teaching surfing by not advertising, so much and not jumping on every call, not taking every lesson, raising my rates and then these conventions started coming around. And that's what kind of got me back in so I can do.
Because you're working again as an actor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got a job and it had to be 10 years ago. And it's this movie that I literally trained my whole life for I'm playing a recovering addict, alcoholic, living in Venice, teaching surfing, having relationships with girls. And it's called Undateable John.
Yes.
And it blew my mind. I'm like, I can do this, like I can be an actor again. Another situation where the fucking distribution was not what I would hoped it would be, like I wanted everyone to see that movie.
Yeah.
But everyone didn't, but it's available on Amazon. Prime, Undateable John.
Undateable John.
Yeah. So, the day we wrapped that movie, I relapsed again. Because it reminded me of just this heartbreaking Hollywood experience. People were totally disrespectful. My work's great in it. I love it now.
Yeah.
But the day I wrapped, I just started drinking margaritas with Daryl Hannah, just going, and I was drunk. And that was off to the races. The next time I stopped drinking, it was a LAPD intervention. I was living in the Palisades. And, that drinking binge landed me in jail again. The only second time I'd ever been arrested and gone to LA County Jail. Wasn't wearing a kilt. Was wearing a black overcoat. I'd had walking around in Palisades with a gun. Like I lived below Lance Carson. The cops came. Like I was running around, and it was Friday night after a Palisades meeting. I was running around with a gun. Like the cops had been called. You could hear the sirens. I saw Michael Lockett. I don't remember this because I was in a blackout. And he's like, "What are you doing? Like you want to go?" I go, "The cops are after me. I have a gun." He's like, "You want to just get my?" He's like, "Get in my car. You want to get out of here?" I'm like, "No." It's so dumb. And
why did you have the gun? Do you think people were after you?
Great question. No. I think it's because I felt so powerless and so pathetic. I'd done this other movie and then I was just drinking and my life sucked. If you had my life, you'd drink too.
Yes.
Fucking, there's no hope for me. I'm out of it. I'd taken I went to a guy and said, I can't keep drinking. I'm an alcoholic. I'm addicted to alcohol. I don't know if a lot of people are alcoholic, but they never get addicted to alcohol. Like I was addicted to alcohol.
Yeah.
Which is different. And an alcoholic. And so, I went to a doctor and he gave me Ativan and I go, look, you need to I can't have no money. I'm broke. I can't work as a surf instructor. I've run out of money and I'm still drinking. I can still get wine. I'm a wino, day drinker, wino. And this doctor went, I've known you for a long time. I can see you're addicted to alcohol. I'm going to give you these pills, and Ativan was one of them, these vitamins and other shit. But you cannot drink on these, or you'll die. And I'm like, I fucking don't ever want to drink again, doctor. Never. Thank you so much. He gave me the package he gives people at Promises, high-end rehabs. Right. And I'm taking them. Next thing you know, I don't know if you're taking Ativan. I'm in a blackout on Ativan, and the next thing you know, I'm drinking white wine out of the bottle. And the next thing I know, I'm in an overcoat, burning it with a .357 Magnum in my pocket. My girlfriend at the time comes home. She's like, "What are you doing? What is that?" I go, "Oh, that's a gun." And I think I pointed it right at her.
Oh.
And she's turned it and pointed at me. I go, "Careful, it's loaded." She goes, "Get out of this house." And she got up and I went, "Okay." She pushes me out of the house. I'm out of the apartment in the Palisades. She locks the door. And I realize I have a loaded gun on me. And so I'm like, bump, bump, bump. Now everyone can hear this. I didn't know it. "Honey, let me in." Not honey. "Let me in. I have a gun." So that's what everyone's hearing. "Open the door. I have a gun."
Yes.
She thinks I'm going to shoot her through the door. And so does everybody else.
Yeah.
There's this drunk guy, because I'm just a notorious drunk in the building. I'm literally a town drunk in the Palisades.
Wow. Like Otis.
I'm a town drunk on the benches asleep. Problem with it? Yeah. We have a problem. But I'm getting in fights, with guys that don't, I'm just a derelict wino.
Mm-hmm.
And they call the cops on me, and I've got a gun, and I hear the fucking sirens, and I start running. I'm a runner. I love to run away, and I'm like running through and there's Michael Lockett, and there's Friday night Palisades meetings getting out.
Wow.
And I go run and hide in the ivy, and and I surrender to the cops. And it was just a great, total surrender. Fuck yeah, take me.
Take me.
Fuck. I gave the gun to this actor who lived across the street from me. He goes, I remember I was asked the cops, "Can I have the bullets? Can I keep the bullets?" And they're like, "No." Because he had guns too, total cowboy. And they're like, "No."
So then.
So I had to go, I went to jail, and they detox. I was like, some of my best work was in jail, like talking to the nurses, because I wanted to go into a med pod. I want to get detoxed from alcohol. I'm addicted. I'm like, I'm going to have a seizure. I actually had a seizure in the holding tank. I got arrested Friday night, right? So you spend 2 days in solitude by yourself till you can go in front to a court. 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday's when you go. But I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. I had a seizure and a heart attack, and they're like, "I think you're just having a panic attack," but I'm fucked up. And I go in, before you go into general population, and I know I'm working it, put your hands out.
Yeah.
You're fucking detoxing from alcohol. And that's the one.
Oh, you could die. The most dangerous detox.
Thanks. That's the one drug they'll help you with. You're in heroin or meth or whatever, Xanax, which were very painful. You don't die from that. It's fucking uncomfortable. But you die from withdrawing from alcohol if you don't have medical assistance. That's why our books, you go to the doctor, And then when you get sober, like AA guys come visit, and then you do AA when you get out. But you need to be medically detoxed, you know.
So did you when you got out? Were you like surrendered? You said you were
Fuck
surrendered.
yeah!
Did you go
when
in?
I was in jail, I was scared to death and fucking miserable. And I'm like, my AA God came to me in solitude when I was by myself. My AA God came to me and goes, "You don't ever have to feel this way again, John. You're an alcoholic. You're in here because you're an alcoholic. And look, there's life outside of this, and you don't have to ever feel this way again. You're scared. You're alone." You're fucking miserable. I'll help you. You just join my, let's do this. And I'm like, I'm all in, bro. I'm all in, God. I'm all in. So I had someone had my back when I went in, like, you're chained to all these murderers and rapists. I'm this white actor, 50 years old, right. Fucking feeble alcoholic,
Yeah.
So I'm in jail. I'm fucking scared, but I've met my AA God, and I'm like, he's got my back. I don't have to be afraid anymore, even though I'm more scared than I've ever been in my life, but I've got my back, and I'm going all in. They're detoxing me from alcohol. On med call, I'm in line for the pill call, med call. I'm like taking pill, like, what are you taking all those pills? Like, I'm an alcoholic, man. They're detoxing me. Shut up. I was stoked to be there.
Yeah.
That's all I ever wanted was to go to a rehab that they detoxed me because I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But jail provided it,
Yeah.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm fucking bored, and by the time I get out, but my friend, I get a fucking your number in jail, your number, you got a visitor. I go, I have a visitor? Yeah. What do I do? And I follow this line to this place. You go to the thing, you're following this line. I'm following that line to see a fucking murderer look up at me, and just the sheriff that's escorting him on his line trail is like, look at the ground, look it down. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm supposed to look at the wall and look down. Like, you can't even look at these guys. And I'm like, I don't belong in here. This isn't for me. I'm never coming back here again. This is not my scene. A lot of those guys, that's their place.
Yeah.
They don't want to be out.
That's their life.
Freedom.
Who they are.
Yeah,
prison guys.
They got to stay in there. That's where they belong. And they're not comfortable out here. They don't want to be out. But I did. I wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And there's Phil Takahashi across the glass from me. Phil Takahashi.
Really?
Yes. Like, I lived with him in the building. I wrote him cards when he was in jail. Phil.
I didn't know that.
Fucking Phil comes to visit me. I'm like, what are you doing here? How'd you even know I was in here? Bro, you're the first person that came to see me.
I didn't know that.
Phil Takahashi. And he goes, it's on TMZ. And I'm like, what's TMZ? He goes, it doesn't matter. You're on TMZ for getting arrested. I knew you were in here. Like, how you doing? Why are you wearing that orange top? Like, that's dissing me because I'm in a med pod. I go, I'm detoxing from alcohol. That's Phil. Hey, he wants me to be in general pop, so I can fucking fight. I don't know what he wanted, but we're different that way. But fuck, I love that guy for coming to visit me.
Oh.
And then like a week later, some other guy, Matt Adler, came to visit me. He goes, yeah, it's on TMZ. And I'm like, oh my God, I heard that. What is that? He goes, you can see it when you get out. Like, are you okay? And he put some money in my account, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
Thank God. And then I find out I have money in my account, and I could buy coffee for everybody in my pod. Like, hey, get yourself a fucking sandwich, I was supposed to be under 30 days. They released me after 15 days, and I'm out, and I've got money in my account. Just enough to take it, because you're out at 3 a.m. downtown.
Yeah.
Fucking no friends.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm never fucking using again. I have enough money to get home. That was my sobriety date, March 15th, 2015.
Well, so the money you had in your books that people put
that
on
Matt
your book,
Adler,
that was enough
one
to
guy,
get you
Matt
home.
Adler, was enough to give me a taxi ride home. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. And that is God. Matt Adler.
And that was 10 years ago?
That was 10 years ago, March 15th. That's the day I got out.
And so,
I had to go to declare rehab for 30, a judge ordered my, I don't want to go to fucking rehab. I just got out of jail. And they're like, it's good for you, but do it. You have to do it. So I do Claire rehab. All I do is read the book, the doctor's opinion. I'm all in AA. I'm never going back to jail. I've had a bottom that was so scary and petrifying, and I knew AA worked because I'd seen it work in my life and everybody else's life. So I'm all in. I get a sponsor and fucking do the steps. I'm like, I had, I was homeless because I'd been evicted. I was homeless and broke. But I was like, fucking thank you, God. Thank you, God. It's you and me, man. Now I'm outside of jail. I'm like, I can do it. I start teaching surfing again, and then I stay sober. I lived at Ronnie McGuire's house.
Yeah.
He let me live at his house, man. Fuck. We learned how to meditate together. Let's learn how to meditate, He's like, but now we're meditating. I'm getting to know his family. He's fucking helping me. People are helping me. I'm starting to make a little more money. I retire from SAG. I start getting a pension. Because I'm broke. My friend goes, you can, I think you worked enough to get it. I look at, I can get a pension.
Wow.
I'm retired right now. I started getting my pension, and that just gave me a life.
Yeah.
And now I do these horror conventions and I work, you know, in little low budget independent movies. I quit SAG, you know, after this, you know, because I'm not a SAG actor. And I fucking, you know, now I can do low budget independent movies. I can do a movie with Andy Capper, you know.
Well, you know what?
People pleaser. And I'm all in AA.
Well, let me tell you something. I know this part of your story, but I'll tell you what was amazing. You and I and Andy had our home group out in Malibu at the time. That men's stag we would go to.
One day at a time.
And I'll tell you, when your house burned down.
Burned my house down.
Okay.
Woolsey Fire 2018.
Woolsey Fires, your house burned down. I talked to my mom about this the other day. You came to the meeting with a fucking backpack.
That's right. That's all I had.
You just had a backpack. So you just been through all this shit, and here you are. And I knew you could see it in you because I remember sitting outside with you. You were devastated. You were just like in shock. But you told me, you go, it was just me and you sitting outside. You go, everything I own is in this backpack. I go, everything? And you go, yeah. You go, I have nothing. It all burned. It's all in this backpack. And I go, what are you going to do? You go, well, nothing's keeping me here. You go, maybe I'll go on a surf trip. I can go on a surf trip. Maybe I'll go to Bali. And I was like, wow, this dude is back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally. I know. 100%
I was like, God is with this guy.
Right. You're right.
You just went through all that, and you're not alone. You were not alone.
No.
And that was amazing to me. I'll never forget that, you know, because I keep, our house burned down in Hawaii and all that stuff, but we had a house that burned down. And it's funny is like you go, it's always going to be okay if I stay sober.
That's right.
It's always going to work out.
Hope.
The minute I don't, then look what happens.
Yeah.
Fucking anything can happen.
Yeah.
You know, brandishing guns in the Palisades to, walking the line in jail, you know.
Yeah.
But that's incredible.
Yeah, that was a great revelation for me. I was like, I got a strong program. And I did. All I did was travel around looking for places to live. Where do I want to live? I can do anything I want. I'm sober. I got a little pension. Do I want to live in Bali? I went there for 3 months, whatever. Do I want to live in Mammoth? I tried to live in Mammoth. Like, that's hard. I'm like, I'm not. I'm a city boy. Shoveling snow. My car broke down in the summer. Like, what am I going to do? I'm just not a mountain. Like, I can't even live in Mammoth. You know, like, I looked in Europe. I had a good friend there. I just hung out there for as long as I could. Live, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do it.
Europe. That's
and
right.
I came back and I got a little studio apartment in Topanga. And that's where when I met my wife. And now we live in Sherman Oaks. We got fucking
Which is
married.
amazing, dude.
I love her more than anything. I've got her and our 2 cats and all for my honey tattooed on my body. I love my wife so much in my life. I'm married.
Yeah, dude.
And I love my wife.
That's
and my
amazing.
Life. We live in Sherman Oaks, you know, like, and I love it, you know. I have never been happier in my life. And I'm 64, 65 in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Never been happier. Like, full of gratitude. I used to resent Hollywood. Now I'm grateful for every opportunity I had. I'm like, I got lucky in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck that, those guys, you know. And now I'm like, God, thank you so much. And that is what's happened to me in the course of this story.
How do you stay in gratitude? Because how are you doing that? How was
I'll tell you, like, I woke up
routine
sad. I woke up sad. I woke up depressed. You know, my life is fucking great. But I woke up sad, and I'm driving to this thing, and I'm going down Beverly. It's only the most beautiful street in the world. I live on Mulholland and Beverly Glen, and I'm sad. I'm not happy. My dad just died a little while ago. I don't know what it is. But I'm like going, I'm going to say I love my life until I feel it, you know? And I'm just yelling, I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. By the time I get down to Sunset, I love my life. Look how pretty this is, you know? And then you turn on KLOS. Live in L.A., KLOS, and like Gimme Shelter comes on, and I'm like, fuck, L.A.'s so cool. KLOS has been around forever. I love this song, you know, and I'm turning down, I'm going ahead into Wilshire going, it's fucking beautiful, you know, and then I get onto Wilshire and it's like bumper to bumper construction traffic. And I'm like, fuck this city. Are you fucking kidding me? You can never trust the machine. I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, they didn't tell me to go. Why would they tell me to go this way? You cannot trust the machine, man. But I'm like, okay, fuck, everyone's got to fucking do what they can do, you know? And like a creep comes on the radio and I'm going, I love LA again, man. I'm going to go through this traffic jam. You know, this is a joke. I have a love-hate relationship, but it's mostly love. I love LA.
And how do you stay in that though?
You got to take contrary action. Like the AA is about contrary action. I fucking want to divorce my wife. I made a huge mistake. I got to go buy her flowers and give her a fucking massage.
Yeah.
Take her out to dinner.
That's right.
That is a contrary action. The next thing you know, she's fucking sweet to me. You know, like I'm angry or bitter or grumpy. I got to go help. So I got to find someone and just make their day.
Yes.
You know, make their day. Be nice. Say like, great wave. That was a good wave.
Yeah.
You know, be nice.
Made my day.
Yeah. Be nice to surfers instead of hating them. Like I hate surfers, but you're nice to them. Like they're human beings too.
Right.
They just happen to surf. But yeah, no, you be nice. I'm just nice to people. I just want to be nice to people, because the other side of that is just this, that I've been the bitter, angry guy who hates everybody and is a victim, basically. And now it's all about, fuck, I'm so lucky. I like to ride my motorcycle to the gym, work out, go home, have lunch with my beautiful wife, and go to AA meetings. I just go to AA meetings now.
And your contrary action, you're taking the contrary action, changes your perception.
100%. Even saying the words. Yeah. Say the third step prayer until you mean it. Ronnie McGuire's prayer? Yeah, I changed to Ronnie McGuire. Say it till you mean it. And you're no longer egotistical and even to do this podcast, you say the third step prayer, you're like, get my ego out of the way. Let me serve God in some way. How can I serve God? Be honest. I had one revelation that's happened to me lately. I know we don't have time, but this is the most important thing I'm going through in my life right now. Is after my dad died, I had to give a eulogy, and I didn't know what I was going to say to his family. And I was like, Dad, talking to my dead dad, because I learned how to do that by talking to God when I didn't believe in God. God, it's you and me. What do you want me to do? Like, how can I help? What should I do? Like, what do I? Because I didn't know what I was going to do. But I practice talking to God I didn't believe. Now I'm talking to my dad. What do I do? And he literally answered me. Talk about them. Talk about my second family and how much it meant to me and how wonderful they are. These kids. And I'm like, thank you. And I gave up. I just improv a eulogy about his second family, and they gave with the life they gave him. And I'm saying it for the first time, and I'm feeling it, And the other day when Val Kilmer died, I saw these posts, about people with their arm around Val, and I'm like, that's so distasteful. They're trying to like take out his fame, trying to raise their cred by no affiliation with Val, who just died. And then Val literally said, and then I saw a thing that I had done about Val. Not after when he was alive. And this guy had posted it. I went, that's so tacky. And I listened to it and I went, that's fucking beautiful what I said about Val on this YouTube thing for a horror movie. The guy just was a fan of Tombstone. And I went, should I share that? Or is that just everything I was making fun of? And Val said to me, through God, there's no shame in heaven, John.
Wow.
And I was like, there's no shame in heaven. Yeah, I'm an actor. You're an actor. Say it.
Yes.
There's no shame in heaven. And that's why I admire you. You have no shame. But yeah, there's no shame in heaven. And I'm like, fuck, there's no shame in heaven. We can do something that promotes ourselves. We can be proud of stuff we've done.
Absolutely.
We don't have to be like, like that false humility and stuff. There's no shame in heaven. You see it out in the world today, how people are, and that helps me with my judgment, When we judge, criticize someone else, that's their life. They're living, let your freak flag fly.
Yeah, and it's the thing too. It's like even with this, when I started this podcast, I had this idea like, what is it going to be? I don't know what it's going to be. Who's going to be on this or that stuff? And my only thought was always like, I had to go in it like we go about our lives, which is I have to give it away.
Yeah.
I don't know what thing's going to be about, but I have to give it away if I want to keep it.
That's right.
And that's your contrary action to me.
Yeah.
I have to take contrary action. I have to be of service because I get the same way you. My perception is skewed. And until I get out of my own way, I can't fucking see.
Right.
And I can't hear.
That's exactly
And it's not the way it really is, until I take that. Dude, I love having you. This is so great.
Thank you so much. That was the most important thing I wanted to say. And I know I said a lot of other things.
No,
that was the kernel of my life.
This was so great
Thank
for
you,
me.
Nick. I love you. I love everything
I love
you do.
you, buddy.
I'm glad
This
you
is
do
great.
Okay, bro.
Yes.
Now we can eat donuts.
Another
Thanks, you guys.
savory conversation on Unsavory Felt, my good buddy John.
Aloha.